following is a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about them Cowboys?
This is Mick Shots, streaming live on DallasCowboys.com and the official Dallas Cowboys app. Now, here are Bill Jones, Everson Walls, and Mickey Spagnola.
And it's time for another edition of Mick Shots. It is our final edition of Mick Shots for the month of March, and we are now less than a month away from the first round of the National Football League Draft, which is Thursday, April 29th. Bill Jones with Everson Walls and Mickey Spagnola inside the SWBC Mortgage Studios there at Ford Center at the Star in Frisco. And there's so much to get to as the Cowboys are trying to put this team together. And the NFL is talking about putting a schedule together that includes 17 games, one fewer preseason game. Let's start with you, Mickey. How are you doing on this fine Tuesday morning?
I am doing great. And you know what? When you are with a bunch of older guys, don't ever start the show by saying, this is the final. I said, oh, no. Does he know something I don't know?
What did you hear?
So,
Everson, how you doing?
I am doing well. This is, the last day, I believe, of National Women's Month. Is that correct?
No, we got one more tomorrow, don't we? Yeah,
one more tomorrow. Sorry.
Tomorrow. Yep, that's right.
But
so
who
are you honoring today?
I am honoring today my mother, who has passed on. This is her birthday today. Ouida Walls. The Ouida is O-U-I-D-A. I will always have to clarify that it's French, so the O is silent. And I always held something against my people because they name us all of these weird names. I never liked Everson. Of course, my mom gave it to me, so I have to love it. But everyone always said it wrong. Emerson. My dad's name was Wellen, W-E-L-L-O-N. All these country names. Her name Ouida. It's like when you get the mail, all of our names are misspelled. I don't care. Growing up, all of our names were misspelled, but happy birthday to Ouida Walls. This is her birthday today, so I have to definitely honor her. And if you check my Facebook post, you'll see that, gave a little honorarium to her just to make sure everybody realized how much we loved her and how important she was to us. Hey, if it wasn't for her, guys, oh my God, you wouldn't know me. You would not know me.
That's exactly
I would
right.
never know you. See, just like most mothers, they saved our lives. They saved us from ourselves. So I want to thank Ouida Walls for doing that and saving me from my worst habits that I had that she had to break me from. I'll put it that way.
hey, there's only one person on this show that nobody had trouble with spelling first or last name. Okay.
Yeah, right. Everson, I was going to tell you, go through life with the name Bill Jones and then complain about.
Right, I can see the other side of that.
I would love to have a unique name.
I can see the other side of that. Definitely, William. I can.
I've had more vowels added to my last name than you can shake a stick at.
And while we're at it, then I'll give a shout out to my late mother as well. Her birthday would be April 3rd, coming up this week.
Oh man, we missed it.
March 27th. They were born exactly
coming up
1 week apart. March 27th, wow. April 3rd, and how amazing is that? And then
that is very cool.
28, 29 years later, they came together in marriage, and here we are today. All right,
yes,
the Cowboys are trying to come together in marriage with over the last couple of weeks in free agency, and they still have one huge gaping hole in one spot in their secondary. Mickey, where do you think the Cowboys are in free agency right now? And of course, that gaping hole right now in the secondary is at one of those starting cornerback spots, as they have not replaced Cheeto Awuzie, who signed with Cincinnati.
Yeah, and I understand that with a veteran, but at least they have Anthony Brown, who they did sign last year to a multi-year deal, so they can use him as a veteran starter no matter what happens or should happen in the draft or if the guy's ready or not. My gaping hole still is the backup quarterback position that they have not addressed yet. I was encouraged, though, listening to Mike McCarthy last week during his media conference saying that they have spoken to several veterans and they'll continue to kind of monitor that position. But he did call the quarterback position, and I know Everson doesn't like this, the most important position on the team. And to me, once you get Dak Prescott signed, the next most important position is the guy behind him. And I'm just not sure they're willing to go into training camp with three guys that have like a combined 3 starts, maybe. I think I added them up if I got that correct. So that's something that we should keep an eye on. Although, you know what, guys, with how volatile the quarterback position is around the league, there's going to be some guys released or some guys going to be cheap, especially after the draft.
Hey, what happened last year, Mickey?
Right, exactly.
Yeah. Where did Cowboys get Andy Dalton last year? It was after Joe Burrow was drafted number 1 overall by Cincinnati. So
true.
So sit tight.
Patience as far as that goes.
Yes, absolutely.
That's right.
Well, I just want to let you guys know that, you know, with the absurdity of this these safeties that we've been signing, of course, you know my position on them. I have decided to commit myself to working out, and I'm going to try out for the Cowboys at safety. So
there you go. I love that.
We're gonna put that out there. I mean, I instead of fussing about it, and we're going to do something about it. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go work out.
And
I'll be in the backyard. I only have 10 yards of sprint space back there, so I'm going to be in the backyard doing 10-yard sprints. I'll be getting ready for you.
I could probably set you up with one of those one-year veteran exception deals, so you'll only count $987,500 against the salary cap, okay? Because that's all these guys are getting. And you only get 1 year.
Exactly. I saw the parade. I saw the parade last week, Spags, of signings. I saw the guys, and I gotta say, they look older than me, man. I mean, some of those guys are just some old looking dudes, man. I couldn't have grown up in this era. These are some of the toughest looking guys I think I've ever seen. I don't even think they're even out of their 30s, and they're looking like this. But you know, when you talk about the gaping hole, that secondary is something I'm still concerned about. When you talk about bringing back Anthony Brown and guys like that, my concern with young defensive backs, and they can't keep playing young if you keep playing all these games. I remember in '81, Madden said about us in our secondary, we weren't Thurman Steves yet, but our young secondary, he said, you know, by the time you get into the playoffs, there are no more rookies. You know, you should have that experience. So I'm looking for the Cowboys secondary to show me some experience. The thing that frustrates us so much by watching our secondary is that we don't make heads-up plays, you know, and that concerns me. We don't show the experience that we should have after playing all of these games that we've been playing, not just in one season, but over 2 or 3 seasons. I would hope that they would show some type of experience. And sometimes the way we did back in the day and the way most good secondaries do it, you start to play the team. Okay, not play your technique necessarily. You play the team and you start to anticipate what they're doing. We just, in our secondary, I just don't see, when I say playmakers, guys that are heads up enough to sniff out a play and then make that play. I would just love to see more of that. And in that regard, I don't give a damn who we sign as long as they can make these plays. Now, these guys that we just signed, they have experience. So hopefully with that experience, they can sniff out a few plays and be able to make a difference in our secondary.
Just remember, Kazee had 7 interceptions in one season.
Yep.
And someone
where does that rank, Mickey?
I had to correct somebody on that because they said those 7 interceptions are more interceptions than any Cowboy player had since Michael Downs in 1984. And I said, no, I think some guy named Walls had 9 in 85, okay?
That's correct. That's correct. How do they forget about me, Spaz?
I don't know. I don't know what kind of list they have.
Oh, my God, man. You guys should give me more shout-outs on whatever you do, because obviously I am fading in everyone's memory. So thank God for this show. I can bring it back up.
Well, no, thank goodness for the show, because I think we spoke about that, and I remembered, I said, no, I think Everson had 9 one year.
Crazy.
Well,
crazy.
I don't remember. I love Michael Downs, but I don't remember any Michael Downs interceptions. I remember every single one of Everson Wall's 57 interceptions in his career.
Hey, I got to say, in fairness to Mike, he saved my ass many times. So, I'm gonna have to differ with you on that one, Bill, because Mike might never forgive me on that one.
See, that's what the Cowboys need to do. They need to get local guys like Everson Walls out of Berkner High School and Michael Downs. Yeah,
we knew the culture coming in. We knew Tom Landry didn't play. We knew we were going to have to work hard, and we knew our secondary already sucked. So we came in ready to play. We came in ready to go, and Charlie Waters was like, come on in here, young fella. You can do all the work, and I can sit back here on my one leg and just have a good time and play it out. That's just what happened.
You know, the bottom line
Mickey,
on these safeties.
Go ahead, Mick.
I'm going to say the bottom line on these safeties, though, is, they're basically signing them all to one-year deals, so it doesn't preclude them from drafting a guy, second, third, fourth round to go along with Donovan Wilson. I saw where DeMonte KZ, is that how I say it, Bill?
Yes.
That's how you say it. I don't know if it's right or not.
All right. That's how you say it.
Kazee, I don't know. Anyway, he basically signed a one-year deal for the veteran exception. So that kind of tells you what kind of market value he may not have had. His cap hit for this year is only $987,500 that I was going to give Everson. So with the veteran exception, you get a minimum signing bonus, which is $137,500. And then basically it's a 1 year, $1.27 million deal. So very similar to those other defensive linemen they signed, offensive linemen too, by the way, all these 1 year deals that they've been signing. And Bill, I also saw,
and in fact, it's less money than those guys early.
Yeah, absolutely.
Those were $400,000 and $500,000 signing bonuses, and this was just a $200,000 signing bonus for Kazee. And in fact, you mentioned market value. It turns out Xavier Woods had a better market value than DeMonte Kazee did, because he signed for basically what the Cowboys were giving these other guys, which was a base of $1.75 million with incentives up to $2.25 with Minnesota over the weekend.
Yeah, because his signing bonus, they at least gave him a signing bonus of $500,000 with a base of $1.25. So his cap hit is $1.75 for this year. So to me, that tells me that he didn't price himself out of the Cowboys market. They just decided to go ahead and move on. And if you look at all these other contracts they signed guys to, Terrell Basham had the most lucrative deal. If lucrative is 2 years, $5.5 million. So again, that's not an extreme amount when his base salary is $2.5 million for this year, and he has $3.75 million guaranteed. So again,
that's lucrative as far as I'm concerned.
Yes, it is.
Yes,
Bill.
but what you see going around the league right now. But Everson's right. It's a lot of 1 year deals, and everybody's kind of hoping for a prove it deal that they can come in and have a good year and then get a bigger contract when the salary cap goes back up next year.
I do recall when I went to the Giants from the Cowboys. Obviously, I was one of the higher paid players on the Cowboys before they got rid of me. And then when I signed with the Giants, now you're like starting all over. I do recall coming in with a 2 year deal. I think it was like $500,000 a piece. And that wasn't bad back then, but it wasn't anything that you could really brag about, especially coming off the career that I had. So it made me by signing that short-term deal, I was going to be hungry anyway. But you definitely understand the urgency of the situation, because if you don't play well, if you don't practice well in training camp, then they really hadn't invested that much in you, so you can be out of there. You know, and so I wanted to make sure that you have to make a quick impression. I was a veteran, so they were looking forward to me making plays. But if you're one of the younger guys out there trying to sign a one-year deal like that, you better come in making smoke happen from day one. That needs to be your incentive.
So to put that money in perspective, in '86 when the Cowboys, the USFL folded, and the Cowboys signed Herschel Walker, it was basically a $1 million a year deal. And that was considered huge, right? And I remember when Tony Dorsett reported the training camp, and somebody said, "Well, what do you think of Herschel getting $1 million?" And he goes, "I feel like $1 million man." Hint, hint.
Because he wanted to get his.
That's right.
To get his.
Exactly.
You know,
but that was considered a lot.
That was considered very controversial as well.
Yes, it was.
Bringing in a guy like Herschel Walker when you already have a future Hall of Famer in your backfield. That's when you knew things were going off the rails over at Valley Ranch.
Getting back to my point about the gaping hole at cornerback, I think it's clear. Right now, it's clear that the Cowboys are taking a cornerback in either the first or second round of this draft. Do you think they're fine, though, Mickey, as far as any more veteran guys at cornerback before the draft?
You know, I think it would have to be another very inexpensive one-year deal on somebody if that guy is out there. You know, they still have Reggie Robinson, right? And, you know, he's got a little bit of experience. I don't know. You know, at times he played well, and then towards the end he didn't play very well. So I don't know if they look at him as a corner. And then the same thing with C.J. Goodwin. You know, he's a special teams guy. And, you know, he's a guy that's just going to count $1.6 million against the cap. They signed him to a three-year deal and gave him an $800,000 signing bonus. So, but again,
how about Maurice Kennedy?
And they have his
Kennedy,
rights.
He opted out. He was signed last. He was signed last offseason. He opted out.
Right.
And all those contracts carry over to this year. And so technically he's still on the roster, but I haven't heard anything about. But they haven't released him. Right?
No, they have not. So from that aspect, they have some guys that have some,
as a veteran.
Yeah,
so
have some
fine.
experience. Yeah.
The biggest thing is you want to go into the draft having all your positions filled where you don't have to draft for need. You have priorities, but you can go out. You can basically. I think the best philosophy through free agency is you do enough where you could actually go out and play a game on draft day, where you don't have to fill a desperate need. I would say the Cowboys have a pretty desperate need in the secondary to add talent back there, but they don't have to in the first or second round do that. And there's other veteran guys out there in veteran cornerbacks that are out there in free agency too that will probably still be out there even after the draft, and see how it shakes out.
Yeah, and then after the draft, the price goes down, right? So
you talked about Robinson, Spags. That's a good one. This he played cornerback in college, correct?
Yes.
He did play cornerback in college. He's a little tall. I know people. He's not that. He's a little bit tall for a cornerback. You know, the way they have coming out of college these days. But you know, when you look at somebody who's had 1 year experience, you expect them to come in the next year, and you know, after having a few games under their belt, to be able to improve. I had played with young players. I came in playing with young players. I was that young player initially. I'm sure Charlie Waters was very concerned about who was coming in when they brought in Michael Downs. But this guy, you know, came in and did what Michael Downs did. Even though Bill doesn't remember any of his plays, Michael Downs actually he actually had a pretty good career. And even when I went to the Giants, he did. Even when I went to the Giants, we had two young safeties that we had to deal with, and that was Greg Jackson and Myron Guyton. And those two guys stepped up because you had two cornerbacks that had a little bit of experience, myself and Mark Collins. So you have to look forward to them developing, don't we? Don't we have to look forward to them making plays? I know I was disappointed about Brown and talking about how they need to use their games and that game experience to get better. Someone that they have signed, younger guys, they have to show improvement. They have to show development. Hopefully Trayvon can show that this offseason, this training camp. But as you say, we go into a draft. Yeah, we might need to draft a corner, but I still want what I signed and what I paid for in previous years to show me some type of development. Either they bring it out of themselves, or you have to have coaches that are able to show them the error of their ways and make them improve. I have seen players come here and who have been stagnant in their development. If you don't come in ready to play, that's great, but you have to show me improvement and development. I want to see that in our young guys.
And we need to hit a break, but we also need to make the distinction that there are two Robinsons in that Cowboys secondary. Of course, Rashard Robinson, who started some games at cornerback last year. I believe it was 3 games. Now, he was a 4th-round pick back, not of the Cowboys, of San Francisco back in 2016. So he's a more veteran guy. And then the guy you're talking about, Everson, Reggie Robinson, who was the Cowboys' 4th-round pick last year and didn't get much playing time, and was actually the previous regime in the as far as the defensive coaches are concerned. We're looking at him at safety, and so it'll be interesting to see what Joe Witt Jr., the secondary coach, and Dan Quinn view Reggie Robinson, whether he works at safety or at cornerback. And of course, we won't know that probably until after the draft and we get into OTAs and so forth. All right, there's so much going on. Alabama's having another pro day as we speak. And their quarterback, Mac Jones, is throwing again. And the 49er Brain Trust is once again there watching Mac Jones. Ohio State's pro day is going on. Tyrone Crawford has made an official statement on Instagram and Twitter we'll get to in a moment. And there's so much, and we're talking about a 17-game schedule. So much to get to as Mick Shots continues in just a moment.
Honey, big news.
Gary, are you okay?
Oh, I'm not Gary anymore. I'm Jackie Flash.
What?
See, I want the latest smartphone, but the best deals are only for new customers. So, to get a new customer deal, I changed my name to Jackie Flash.
Okay, but the best smartphone deals at AT&T are for everyone, new and existing customers.
That's huge. Then guess who's getting a deal?
Is it Jackie Flash?
Jackie Flash.
It's not complicated. At AT&T, our best smartphone deals are for everyone. Restrictions apply. Visit att.com for details.
The Cowboys way, where 16 Hall of Famers and 5 championships shows us what success looks like. Where turkey is always the second best part of Thanksgiving Day. Where we are all defined by one single thing, the star. Where we as fans know it's our job to keep the tradition going. Bank of America is proud to be the official bank of the Dallas Cowboys and to support the quest of living life the Cowboys way. Copyright 2020, Bank of America Corporation.
Grab some OtterBox gear and get ready for hanging with the boys. From rugged venture coolers to tough as nails elevation tumblers, we've got what you need to keep your game day drinks frosty and your football feast ice cold. And with cases, screen protectors, and power accessories, you can defend your phone and stay connected to every play. Gear up at OtterBox.com and amp up the fun of every Cowboys game. That's OtterBox.com.
Just like all of you, we at SeatGeek can't wait until we're back in the stands at full strength cheering on the Cowboys and singing along to our favorite songs again. We're using this time to make discovering, buying, and selling tickets to events in Dallas easier. Plus, every ticket purchased on SeatGeek is protected by our buyer guarantee, which means you'll get your money back or better if your event is canceled. Guaranteed. Download the SeatGeek app today, and when the time is right, let's go. SeatGeek.
Back to Mick Shots.
Cowboys fans, show your football pride at the Pro Shop, the official store of Cowboys Nation. Score classics like your favorite player jerseys. Number 24, Everson Walls. Perhaps you find it at the Pro Shop. Tees and hats, plus exclusive collections and unique accessories with options from Nike, New Era, and many other brands. The Pro Shop has more Cowboys gear than anyone in the game. Visit your local Dallas Cowboys Pro Shop or online at shop.dallascowboys.com.
You might see 24, but it was probably Marion Barber. That's the way they always confuse me with him.
Hey, Bill, and
there's no number 24 right now.
And pretty soon to hit the pro shops is this year's draft magazine. It's
there you go.
Hot off the presses right now. So
nice,
you got it.
We'll have some.
Always good to have somebody on the inside, huh, Bill?
That's right. Or here at the building. But there's
very good.
It's a pretty comprehensive scouting reports on all the top prospects and analysis on what the Cowboys have done or will do. First round mock draft, and I sort of wrote a piece on how the preparation for this draft for the scouting department has been altered and a little bit more difficult with the inability to have a combine. So a lot of good reading, but stay tuned and we'll let you know how you can get your hands on one of these.
All right, I want to get into the movings and shakings in the draft and what happened last Friday with San Francisco moving around and how all of that stuff kind of impacts the Cowboys. But as I mentioned before the break, just moments ago, Tyrone Crawford has made it official. A lengthy post on Instagram and Twitter announcing his retirement from football. Of course, Mike McCarthy at his press conference last Thursday let the cat out of the bag. And Tyrone, to kind of summarize, he says in his post that he didn't want to make so much of an official farewell. He just wanted to kind of ride off into the sunset. There's so many people that he wants to thank, and he has proceeded now to. In what our producer Chris Beam said was like a 4-page post on Instagram, is doing just that. But Mickey,
he had a lot to say. He had a lot to say.
That's exactly right. You can only imagine. There's so many people that have impacted him. First and foremost is his wife Kelsey. He points out has been at his side through all of his surgeries that he's had and throughout his journey. Mickey, Tyrone. 9 years in the NFL with the Cowboys, and that's a very nice career. 3rd-round draft pick out of Boise State.
You know, and a really good soldier for a 3rd-round pick. I always have to call him a defensive lineman because when he would show up to training camp after preparing in the offseason to play defensive tackle, it's like, well, you know what? We need you at defensive end. And then the years that they said, okay, you're a defensive end, and then they get injuries inside and said, well, Tyrone, you're a defensive tackle. And he never complained. He did what they asked him to do and did it at a very professional level. I remember one year I'm not sure if it was in the off season or it was the beginning of training camp. I was interviewing him, and I said, so what are you, a defensive end or a defensive tackle? He said, I don't know, you tell me. He goes, whatever they tell me to play, I will play. And he would adjust his weight because he would come in a little heavier to play defensive tackle, and then they had to move out to defensive end. Or he'd drop weight to play defensive end, and they said, well, you know what, at 270, we want you at defensive tackle. So that's going to be, to me, his legacy here over 9 years is he did whatever they asked him to do and did it as well as he could.
That's a great legacy to have, too, Spags. When you look at his career and we talk about the sacrifices he made physically, I think the hip surgeries that he had in the offseason, and then he still comes back and tries to contribute as best he can. You know, I coach some kids every once in a while, and yes, Spags, I do teach them all the bad habits that I learned in the NFL. And one thing I tell them, I said, the more you can do, the more you can do. That makes you more valuable to almost any team that you're on. If you're playing cornerback and they ask you if you can play safety, you say, yes, I can play safety. Matter of fact, you tell them you were a safety. You just tell them whatever they want to hear to make sure that they have a comfort zone with you. The Cowboys had a great comfort zone with Tyrone Crawford, a guy that, we talk about the big names in these organizations, and the big names are always what drives the notoriety. But when it comes to really the heart and the soul of the teams, it's guys like Tyrone Crawford who are the ones that really keep us in good standing. And once again, I throw guys like Michael Downs in there who just did all the hard work and really didn't get much fanfare for it. So, yeah, Tyrone Crawford he should go down as one of the favorite Cowboys of this particular generation of players.
You know, guys, sometimes you just can't define a player's career by stats. You have to be around it and see it. And I know before he decided that hip surgery was in his future, dual hip surgery, by the way, he was contemplating, do I really want to come back and play? You know, I've done a lot. And I'll tell you what, I've got the greatest respect for anybody in this game, including a couple of these DBs the Cowboys signed that come back from a torn Achilles. That's no joke. That is difficult. And he tore his in training camp, and I'll never forget, it was a couple years later, he went down and let out, it was early in training camp, the loudest scream you ever heard, and they carted him off, and his biggest fear was he retore the Achilles. It ended up being a really bad ankle foot sprain, but he worried so much about that. So the fact that he came back and played another year, I think that's just a credit to who he is and the fact that he wanted to come back and prove to everybody that he could come back and play.
You know, the other thing, Mickey, just look at last year with the Cowboys, and he was in the last year of his contract. This shows, I think, the respect that the organization had for Tyrone Crawford, because if you look at what the breakdown on his contract last year, what was it? He had a base salary of $8 million last year, and they could have very easily released him and saved a lot of money on the salary cap. But they had so much respect for Crawford, not only his ability as a football player, his leadership in the locker room, and his want to come back from the surgeries, that he would be able to get back to be able to contribute on the field, that they didn't tear up that contract. They didn't release him, and he played it out. And that is uncommon in this league, but I think it really shows the respect that the entire organization, the coaching staff, and the front office had for what Tyrone Crawford had contributed to this team.
You know, I got to say one thing. As you look at the different organizations, when you go back to the 80s, 70s, and then you compare them to the old regime to this, well, I say new regime, more recent regime with Jerry and the guys, it's a little bit more politically correct, don't you think, guys? Back in the day, Gil Brandt, Tex Schramm, they wouldn't give a hoot about any player, no matter how much respect he had. We had guys, offensive linemen like Coop, the point guard we used to have, Coop, that played on a bad knee almost his whole career, eventually had to have knee replacement. You know, you had offensive linemen and tight ends who were playing with bad injuries all the time, and they knew if they got the surgery, they were going to get cut right after they came back. You know, it's so different now compared to what it was then. Now, I don't know if that's a good thing, because we were winning back then, even though we were being treated like crap. I mean, like dog crap. But now, the way that Jerry shows favor in a good way to a guy like Tyrone Crawford, I don't think you would have gotten that type of treatment. Tyrone Crawford wouldn't have gotten that type of treatment if we were still over at Valley Ranch.
Hey, Bill, I was going to point out one thing when you asked about gaping hole on the roster, and I was going to bring up the linebacker position, and I think you got a good look at the guy I've been talking about. What if you got to number 10 and the best defensive player in the draft is still on the board, would you take a linebacker named Micah Parsons?
Micah Parsons, wow. Just go look at his tape, the Penn State linebacker, and it blows you away. His speed, I think he ran a 4.39 at his pro day.
You lying.
No, yes, he did.
That is a lie.
Okay.
That is a lie. Oh, my God.
That's
Come
right.
on, man.
It's hand
See, now you got me salivating. Now you got me salivating here. I'm salivating now. Now, he's not going to be there, and I'm going to be mad now when the draft comes.
And to make you salivate a little bit more, he's 6'3" and 1/8, 246 pounds, and he bench pressed 225 19 times and ran. And that was the slowest one that they hand-timed him now because it's not the combine, but they hand-timed him at 4.39, by the way.
If you're around a 4.5 as a linebacker, I'm still impressed. You know, that is amazing. I did not know his 40 time was that good. I thought he was really just all initiative and drive, but he's also extremely talented. So that's something that I'd love to go with. And you're talking about the gap, guys. We're talking about Tyrone Crawford leaving and Alden didn't sign, right? They're not bringing back Alden Smith. There's a big gap right there in our defensive lineman position. So, you know, if we have a defensive lineman that's available, that's a hell of a defensive lineman. Are there any out there, Spags, that you would I know you wouldn't have the same feeling as you would with the Penn State guy, but any defensive lineman out there that would make us change our minds and go another direction if he's the best available player when we're ready to pick.
Yeah, and I don't know that they go defensive end that early, and no tackles are probably available at that point. But all I know, and you know, say what you want about Charlie Casserly or however he evaluates people, but Casserly said number one thing about Parson, he finds the football. Instincts jump off the tape, and he can pass rush off the line of scrimmage, blitzing. So, you know, if anybody needs to look, just go look at the 2019 Cotton Bowl when he was the most valuable player in that game for Penn State. But again, you know, look at the linebacker position. Other than the two guys you know are starters with Leighton Vander Esch and Jalen Smith, as I said last week, who's next? Because it's Luke Gifford, Bernard Francis, and they don't really have anything else. So now they talked about playing Keanu Neal starting off with the linebackers. But again, he's 216. And I understand playing safety and making tackles against the run, but lining up at linebacker and trying to make tackles is another thing. And so especially if it's not in nickel. We learned that last year. Yeah, especially if it's not in nickel situations. So, yeah, to me, linebacker is a need. And, you know, and I get it. You have to get everybody in the first round. You got to hit on second round, third round, fourth round guys that can come in and play. And, again, I'll go back to Bill bringing up the safety position. You know, this draft is not all about 2021 because all these guys we talked about signed one-year deals. So who knows if you can bring them back if they have a good year, or what if they don't have a good year and you got to move on. So you name a position on defense and I got my hand in the air saying, yeah, they need one of those.
That's exactly right. But here's the other thing, though, about this draft for the Cowboys with what's happening with the quarterback market in this draft. You're looking at, and Urban Meyer basically admitted this past week that they're taking Trevor Lawrence, number one overall. Number two, the Jets are taking a quarterback, and most of the speculation is Zach Wilson out of BYU. And then you've got San Francisco moves up and gives up the ranch to move up from 12 to 3. And obviously they're taking a quarterback at 3.
They've even come clean and said they are. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right. Now the speculation is, who is it that John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan have their eyes on at quarterback? Let's say Lawrence and Wilson go 1 and 2 to the Jags and the Jets. All right, is it Justin Fields, the Ohio State quarterback? Is it Trey Lance, the North Dakota State quarterback? Or is it Mac Jones, the Alabama quarterback, that the 49ers have their eyes on? You know, most of those, the quote-unquote so-called experts with the mock drafts, prior to San Francisco moving up to number 3 on Friday, they basically had it as Lawrence, either Wilson or Fields. All right, there's your top 3. Trey Lance also in the mix, North Dakota State, although there's not a great body of work on him just yet, and only played 1 game in the fall because North Dakota State didn't have a season. And then Mac Jones was considered mid-first round, whatever. Well, now the scuttlebutt around the league is that it's actually Mac Jones that the Niners are interested in, and that he would fit Shanahan's system. Well, the Niners were at Mac Jones Pro Day last Tuesday, and I'm sitting here watching it right now, and both Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch are at Alabama's second Pro Day today, and Mac Jones is out there throwing a second Pro Day in front of those coaches, which is going to lead to more speculation that it's actually Mac Jones. How does this relate to the Cowboys? Well, now you're looking, if that is true, and Mac Jones is going to be the 3rd pick, well, then you got Justin Fields, you got Trey Lance. There could be 5 quarterbacks taken in the top 9 picks of the draft, meaning that for the Cowboys picking at number 10, and they're out of the quarterback market, you're basically looking at a 5-player draft for the Cowboys as far as positions of need for them. That's pretty remarkable for them. They're sitting at a pretty good spot, the Cowboys are, at number 10.
Well, if you think about it, if there's 9 picks ahead of them, if 5 end up being quarterbacks, and I'll guarantee you they're waving the flag for that. Yeah, take them quarterbacks. There's probably 2 wide receivers that are going to go in the top 10. And
there's a tight end also.
A tight end and at least 2 offensive linemen probably worthy of a top 10 pick. So when it gets to the Cowboys, unless somebody does something you don't expect, they should have their choice of cornerback. And if the Giants don't take Micah Parsons, because I think they think he's the next Lawrence Taylor, then he's sitting there for the Cowboys too. And then you have the option of, well, what if one of them top 5 quarterbacks hadn't gone yet and somebody wants him at 10? You know, if you move back a couple, 2 or 3 spots, you can get another second-round pick for sure. Maybe if they think they're getting a quarterback, you can get next year's first or something. So they're in a pretty good spot at number 10 because they don't need a quarterback.
And I like that position because to me, it'll be just like last year. I'd be extremely comfortable if you've got these quarterbacks going all in the top 5 picks, then they're going to make room for the roster for these quarterbacks. And that just might mean a veteran has to be let go. And one of those veterans could come here to the Cowboys. We could sign him as we did Andy Dalton last year, and we could save that money as far as draft is concerned and things of that nature and signing bonuses. And we could go that route while picking up a good defender, a good cornerback, or a good linebacker instead in that first round. To me, that's a good idea. That's a good way to go.
All right, we got much more to get to in regards to not only the draft, but also the NFL owners convening this week, and things are going to be hammered out as far as a 17-game schedule. We'll get Everson and Mickey's reaction on that, and much more on Mick Shots in just a moment.
We're back with a tasty treat that's sweeping airwaves and taste buds. It's new Dr. Pepper and Cream Soda. Let's take a listen.
Dr. Pepper and Cream Soda's here. A new combo that's music to my ears, okay. Let's play. Cream soda and Dr. Pepper time. Pour it in a glass of ice.
Ah, music to my ears and mouth. New Dr. Pepper and Cream Soda.
A delicious duet.
Grab some OtterBox gear and get ready for hanging with the boys. From rugged venture coolers to tough as nails elevation tumblers, we've got what you need to keep your game day drinks frosty and your football feast ice cold. And with cases, screen protectors, and power accessories, you can defend your phone and stay connected to every play. Gear up at OtterBox.com and amp up the fun of every Cowboys game. That's OtterBox.com.
Hi, I'm Clint Tillison with United Ag and Turf. When there's work to be done, a real workhorse can make all the difference. Like the Range Boss package. Our 5075E John Deere 75 horsepower tractor features a bell spear and loader and starts at $369 per month. And the price you see is the price you'll pay. No surprises. It works like a horse, so you don't have to.
Visit UnitedAgAndTurf.com. Offer ends February 1st, 2021. Restrictions apply. See dealer for details.
Now, let's get to work.
Want to use what the pros use? How about the official men's skincare brand of the Dallas Cowboys, Jack Black? Right now, you can get the Jack Black Starter, a curated collection of Cowboys locker room favorites for just $10 with free shipping. The starter includes 4 Jack Black skincare favorites, plus a full-sized intense therapy lip balm. Go to getjackblack.com/Cowboys and use the code word TEAMJB. That's getjackblack.com/Cowboys. The Jack Black Starter, $10, free shipping.
Back to Mick Shots.
Tour AT&T Stadium, the home of the Dallas Cowboys. Run on the field, see the locker rooms, and so much more. Tours are available daily. For details, visit attstadium.com/tours.
All right. I've failed to mention off the top, Mickey, how's your college basketball bracket doing?
It was doing really well until Arkansas let me down last night.
Yep, that's right. We had an old Southwest Conference matchup of Baylor versus Arkansas. Baylor won. And now we got another old Southwest Conference matchup in a national semifinal as Baylor plays Houston. And it's the first time in 37 years since the days of Phi Slamma Jamma that Houston is in the Final Four. I love Phi Slamma Jamma.
I'll tell you what, Kelvin Sampson's done a wonderful job at that school, and I think it gets overlooked. And by the way, my saving grace to make up ground, I had picked Houston to go to the finals against Gonzaga. So if they can somehow, some way beat Baylor, I would be in pretty good shape.
All right.
You know, in regards to I forgot about the women's month. The Baylor women are not feeling too celebrated right now.
Well,
such a shame to lose in that manner.
How do they not make that call? How do you not make that call? They could have called it on both of them. Should have got 4 shots.
No, those girls should have gotten arrested. That's how hard they hit her. They both, one hit her in the arm, the other hit her in the face. That's an assault. I mean, I don't know how they could let that go. Everyone's tweeting about it and how, you know, the miscarriage of justice that occurred. You just hate to see a game go down like that. I know refs like to swallow the whistle, you know, in the last few seconds, last possession, so to speak. But some things are just so obvious. You gotta call it, even though if it goes against your, you know, whatever thing you got going on.
If I was Kim Mulkey, I would have got thrown out of the game. I don't know how much time was left, like 0.8 seconds or something like that.
Yeah.
They would have had to carry me off the court before they restarted the game. Which is why I'm not a coach, right?
And which network carries the women's tournament? ESPN?
Yeah, and where's it located? Yeah.
Yep. Right in the back.
Come on, guys. Bill, I didn't know you were a conspiracy theorist.
Literally. I know this for a fact, that inside those that building at ESPN, the UConn women's basketball team probably is more popular than the New York Yankees inside that building.
Interesting.
Yeah. And that was unquestioned. You have to make that call. It was crazy.
You have to.
As we celebrate National Women's Month here on Mick Shots.
Okay, so today and tomorrow, the virtual owners' meetings will take place, right? And it seems like it's going to be a rubber stamp to play a 17th game and reduce the preseason to 3 games. So What are you guys' thoughts on that? Because that issue and how they decide to go forward with the offseason in relation to OTAs, mini camps, and what the players will be allowed to do or not allowed to do this year seem to be the biggest issues of this owners meeting.
To me, this is typical of, just American business. It's the way business is done, capitalism. If they're going to pay you more money, then they want to drain more out of you. That's just the way it is. They're getting this great TV contract. I'm talking about the NFL owners getting this great TV contract. They know that even though that they're receiving money, they know they're going to have to pay a lot out. That's what Dak Prescott's entire strategy was in regards to holding out for more money, so to speak, knowing that the salaries are going to go up after this new TV contract. So the owners are sitting in the meetings going, hey, guys, we're going to have to pay all these players. And in typical owner fashion, what can we get out of this from them? We're going to pay them, but we're going to also increase their output or their load. We're going to increase the load that we put on them as players. And that's just the way business is. They don't want to so-called, and they think, give away that money and not get anything from it. So they decide to add another game to it. And when you think about it, the NFL started way back in the day with maybe 12 games, Spags, if I'm not mistaken.
10 games.
10 games and then 12.
Then 14. Then 14 games was the limit there back for a minute, because I know that's when Night Train Lane ended up getting like 15 freaking interceptions in 14 games. Something that I knew I'd never be able to do. So yeah, 14 games. Now up to 16. Now here we go, 17. Damn. I mean, what happens when they have the next TV contract? We're gonna move it up to 19. Are we going for a 20-game season? No preseason?
I hope when they do that,
they're gonna try and get all they get out of it.
I hope when they do that, we're still doing mixed shots.
I hope I'm still alive when they're still doing that. The show may go on. I still want to be a co-host. So, yeah, I'm with you.
Bill, what do you think? Because this seems like the NFLPA gave some concessions up from a monetary standpoint, from cap standpoint.
They always do.
To basically say, okay, you can decide if we get a 17th game. It seems like it's just a rubber stamp procedure here now.
And I think where the owners convinced the players it would be worth their while to do that is because of they knew what was available in this TV contract if they not only expanded to where you got a 17-game regular season, but more importantly than that is you extend the season on into February. From a TV standpoint, February is a sweeps month, and which is big for TV as far as their ratings go and their sales and so forth. They make a lot of money during that month of February if you've got NFL games on your network. And so now you're going to, for instance, this coming Super Bowl will now be played, I think it would be February 13th with a 17-game season.
Correct.
It's pushed back a week. And so now you're taking up half of the month of February, which is a huge TV ratings month. And I think the regular season would not end until January 9th or 10th. So your postseason is starting in mid-January. You're basically going mid-January to mid-February on it. So I think that was one of the keys on it, and it gets back to what Everson's talking about, it's money. But I think the NFL, and I know the horse is out of the barn, it's a done deal, it's going to happen, but the NFL has, since 1977, I think, has had the perfect setup of the 16-game season. One of the reasons that the NFL is so popular is the fact that every game really matters during the season because they play 16 games. You compare it to the NBA or the NHL, and you've got these 82-game seasons. These NBA regular season games, who cares who wins? We already know by just looking at the rosters, who's going to make the playoffs, there's no meaning to these regular season games. And so I think with the NFL, when you're stretching it out to a 17-game regular season, and who knows, a couple of years, and they may go 18 games, whatever, I think when you take the importance of the regular season games away, you may be walking down a path that you don't want to go down. And then the other part of it is from a player acquisition standpoint, and Everson can speak to this, just the wear and tear on players. We're seeing the injured list being used more and more. Of course, last year was a different year because of COVID, and they had different rules. But you basically have to have a 90-man roster that Mike McCarthy's talking about last year or last week, because you're with your practice squad and everything, you're basically going to use 75, 80 players during a season.
Good point. That's a good point.
Well,
Bill. The injuries are gonna pile up. Go ahead, Spack.
No, I was just going to say, and I think possibly they need to adopt some of the things they did last year to get through the pandemic-affected season. What about there's no load management in the NFL, and especially if you keep the playoffs the way they were, right? And you only get one team gets a bye. No one's loafing the last 1 or 2 weeks of the season because that bye is so important. And then the fact that you might have the extra teams in the playoffs, I think that's significant. The other thing I've seen where the way they're going to have a rotating basis, the NFC will play the AFC in corresponding divisions. So from the Cowboys' standpoint, the NFC East will play the AFC East in the corresponding position you finish, which means the Cowboys would be at New England for the extra 17th game of the year, and the AFC's hosting the 17th game this year. Next year it'll be the NFC. So, I think it's going to happen, and I think that they have to continue to consider the 48-man game day roster. And continue to make adjustments to injured reserve where you don't have to be out for 8 weeks before you're ready to come back. I think those are things that need to be discussed. Now, the thing that bothers me is the NFLPA is pushing for virtual OTAs and virtual mini camps, and J.C. Treader is the player president of the NFLPA, keeps saying that the league was better last year not having an offseason, and I disagree with him. I think defenses suffered tremendously with not having an offseason, and all we got to do is look out the window here and see what the difference was with no offseason. And not an excuse, right, because everybody played by the same rules, but I don't think the level of play was as high as it normally is by eliminating the offseason help. And it hurts the players because young guys don't have as much an opportunity. Now it's one less preseason game, right, to impress people, and you got no offseason to make an impression on anybody if you don't have that training. And I still say it increases the level of injuries that take place without that type of preparation for the regular season.
Well, I'm going to charge this to one of you guys since I don't do homework. maybe we should chart that. I mean, take a look at, how did they score more points this year? Did we have more defensive injuries this year? Those are the kind of things I could say could be easily checked out. But as you look at Bill's scenario, go ahead, Bill.
Well, I was going to say I've done the research. And the Cowboys gave up more points than they have in the 61-year history of the franchise. So there you go.
Good job.
By this team, anyway.
No, but I would have to say, based on your logic in regards to February being such a marketing month for TV and things of that nature, why don't we just push the season back instead of worrying about August and training camp and preseason games in August? Why don't we move all of that stuff into September, and then you can have your regular season going into late January, and then the Super Bowl is going to be later into February. I don't see a reason why we are held to starting the preseason in August or in September. Is there any advantage to that? We could change that as opposed to adding another game. You understand what I'm saying? Just move the season back as opposed to adding another game if you want to take advantage of February. That's my point.
Well, understand that the new shows start the beginning of February. The beginning of September on television.
It's back to TV.
That's right.
It's back to TV. The new season starts the Sunday after Labor Day.
Right.
And that's, lo and behold, that's when the NFL season starts also.
Well, what are we going to do about 4th of July then? What about 4th of July? We want to get some of that money too, right? I mean, come on.
But then again, Mickey, that is so old school.
Right. I know.
Yeah.
And that thus move the season back. That's what I'm saying. Move the season up to, late September. Well, I'm married to that, but I see what you're saying.
All right. We've run out of time on this edition of Mick Shots.
I had a list here for you. The top guys at Ohio State is scheduled to work out today, other than Justin Field. So linebacker Baron Browning, linebacker Pete Werner, offensive lineman Wyatt Davis, and Josh. I didn't write his name down very well. Josh McGee, maybe. Defensive tackle Tommy Togaya, and running back Trey Sermon. Those are their top guys.
So, and we're being told that Mike McCarthy is at Ohio State. So why would he be at Ohio State?
Because they've probably got tons of players to keep an eye on. This is not all about the first round, right? And you've got 10 picks.
Baron Browning, the linebacker, is the most notable name as far as I'm concerned on that list. He's from Kennedale, right here in the Metroplex.
Oh, he is.
Is he considered a first rounder? Is he considered a first rounder?
I haven't seen his name.
No, he's not. In fact, I looked at a top 100 list, Pro Football Focus, and he's not on the top 100. I would think, though, he's probably it could move up into the second or third round.
Well, isn't that the poor linebacker? Isn't that the poor linebacker who ended up in single coverage on Devontae Smith in the championship game?
No, it wasn't Baron Brown.
Oh, okay.
No, it was a different linebacker. Yeah. Browning was highly all Ohio State players are highly recruited, but he was one of our Landry Award finalists 3 years ago coming out of Kennedale. And he looked very good in the Cowboys uniform, and he's got those same qualities where he can rush off the edge a little bit too.
All right.
Anyway,
as long as it's
my
not
big
that
green
guy.
Notebook. Hey, I'm starting. What are you saying?
I said as long as it's not that poor Ohio State linebacker that was chasing Devontae Smith, chugging along.
That's right. I'm starting to fill up my 2021 Big Green NFL Draft Scouting Notebook. And so I'm going to have some nuggets for you out of that in the coming weeks leading up to the draft.
And I got mine right here, okay?
All right, I better hurry up. Chris is leaving the room. Chris is walking out of the room.
All right, that does it for Mick Shots. For Everson and Mickey, I'm Bill, and we will see you again next Tuesday at 11:30 on Mick Shots.
Go Cowboys!
This has been a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about this, Cowboys? Yeah!